Okay, let's just jump right in with the biggest question there is. What is reality? I mean, really. Forever. We've been searching for answers everywhere. Spirituality, philosophy, you name it, even science. And today we're going to follow this really wild thread that actually connects all three. We're going to build a kind of blueprint for reality. And honestly, it might just change how you see, well, everything. So let's get started.
So let's kick things off with this one kind of wild thought. What if the universe has a memory? I mean, what if every single thing that's ever happened, every action, every thought, every feeling didn't just vanish? What if it's all recorded, like stored in the very fabric of the cosmos? Now, this isn't just some late-night dorm room question. It's actually the key we're going to use to unlock this whole blueprint.
Okay, so where does an idea like a cosmic memory even come from? Well, long before we had scientists trying to measure the universe, ancient wisdom and, just pure intuition pointed to something pretty radical, that the universe isn't really made of stuff, it's made of information.
And that brings us to this absolutely mind-bending idea from Dr. Ervin Laszlo. He says the universe works kind of like a hologram, where every tiny piece contains the information of the entire picture. Just let that sink in for a second. If that's true, it means the universe's memory isn't just out there somewhere, it's right here. It's inside us.
This idea of a cosmic memory, it's not new at all. It actually has a really ancient name, the Akashic Records. This comes from Indian philosophy, and it's basically described as this universal database of, everything. But here's the really cool part, the modern twist that Dr. Laszlo adds. He's saying, hey, maybe this isn't just mysticism. Maybe it's an ancient description of something very real that science is just now catching up to, the quantum field, the very thing that underlies all of reality.
Okay, so let's run with that. If reality is, at its core, just information, how do you even begin to build a logical system for it? Like, if you were a philosopher, how would you try to map out its operating system? That's the next piece of our blueprint.
All right, so one really powerful way to think about this is a framework called ultimate totality. Now, to get this, you've got to forget any idea of a personal, human-like God. Instead, imagine the most fundamental level of reality as a mind-energy continuum. Think of it like a state of pure formless potential. It's like an infinite block of uncarved marble that contains every possible sculpture all at once.
Yeah, and this analogy of a mist really nails it. At its most basic level, reality is just a formless mist, a field of pure potential. And according to this whole philosophical system, it's our consciousness, the simple act of perceiving, that acts like a lens, focusing that mist into the solid, structured world we see all around us.
But wait, for a world to actually appear out of this formless potential, something has to happen. A fundamental split has to occur. The system has a name for this, bifurcation. You can see here, this perfect, seamless state of symmetry. It breaks. And bam, you get duality. This is the birth of all the opposites that define our world, up and down, light and dark, and the big one, me versus you, self versus other.
So this leads to a pretty crucial question, right? If reality starts out as this formless whole and then gets split into opposites, how do our individual minds actually build the world we experience? What are the filters we're all looking through? Well, to tackle that, this framework pulls off something really clever. It's called Transcendental Platonism, and it basically smashes together the ideas of two absolute giants of philosophy, Immanuel Kant and Plato. The gist is this. It takes Kant's idea that our minds provide the basic structure of reality, like space and time, and it merges it with Plato's idea that the universe itself has these deep, perfect patterns built into it. Let's break those two down. Okay, first up, Kant. His big idea was that our minds are not blank slates at all. Nope. They come with pre-installed software, you could say. These fundamental structures, like space and time. So we don't just perceive space and time out in the world. Our mind actually slaps that framework onto everything we experience just to make sense of it.
Then you've got Plato. He believed that the universe itself has this hidden layer of perfect blueprints, which he called forms. Think about it. You've never seen a truly perfect circle in the real world, right? But the idea of a perfect circle, that's real. And Plato said every circle we actually see is just a fuzzy, imperfect copy of that perfect blueprint. So Transcendental Platonism just brings these two epic ideas together. And what's the result? Well, it means we never actually experience ultimate reality directly. We live in what's called a quasi-reality. It's a team effort.
The universe provides the perfect patterns, the forms, and our minds provide the operating system, space and time, to actually run the whole show.
Okay, this is a pretty neat model, right? But it leads to a pretty unsettling question. If our experience of reality is constructed like this, then who's the I at the center of it all? And maybe more importantly, how much control does that I actually have? No, seriously, think about it for a second. When you make a decision, even something simple like what to have for lunch, where does that choice really come from? You probably think it's that voice in your head, your conscious self. But this blueprint we're building, it suggests the real answer is way deeper and, frankly, a lot weirder.
This is where the framework drops a bomb. It introduces a concept called the non-consciousness, and it calls this our true mind. This is not the voice narrating your life inside your head. It's the silent, deep intelligence that's directly plugged into that ultimate totality we talked about. It's the real ghost in the machine, the one that's actually pulling all the levers.
200 milliseconds. That's it, 1/5 of a second. It's faster than a blink of an eye. But in the world of neuroscience, that tiny little gap of time is where our whole idea of free will kind of falls apart. And here's why. Back in the 80s, a neuroscientist named Benjamin Libet ran these now famous experiments on free will. And what he found was stunning. The brain activity that kicks off an action, like, deciding to flick your wrist, it starts about 200 milliseconds before the person is even consciously aware that they've made the decision to act.
Let that sink in. This is a total bombshell. It suggests that the feeling we have of making a choice is just a story our brain tells us after the fact. Our deeper, non-conscious mind has already set the wheels in motion. In other words, our conscious self, it's pretty much just an observer. We're just along for the ride.
Okay, I know, this whole model of consciousness might sound like some pretty out there philosophy, but here's where it gets truly wild. This exact same pattern, a solid, definite reality, emerging from a sea of pure potential, it shows up in one of the hardest sciences we have, modern physics.
See, physicists have been wrestling with this for ages. Down at the quantum level, reality isn't solid at all. It's just a fuzzy cloud of probabilities. So how do we get this, our solid, predictable world, out of that? Well, their theories talk about a process where that giant field of potential collapses into the one single reality we experience. And when does it collapse? The moment it's observed. Does that sound familiar? It's an incredible parallel to the idea of consciousness giving form to that formless mist.
And this brings us full circle, right back to the beginning. The legendary physicist John Archibald Wheeler nailed it with this simple, brilliant phrase, it from bet. His point was that every particle, every physical object, gets its very existence from a bit, an act of observation that creates information. At its very core, the universe isn't just something we look at, it's something we participate in. It's made of information. So where does that leave us? If we live in this participatory, information-based reality, and if our conscious selves are really just observers watching a much deeper intelligence at work, then what's the point? What are we even supposed to be doing here?
Let's go back to Dr. Laszlo one last time. He suggests that the universe itself has this built-in drive, an impulse to evolve from chaos towards cosmos, which is just a state of greater order and coherence. And he says that is our sacred mission, to get in sync with that cosmic current, to consciously take part in the universe's grand project of turning chaos into order.
When you put it all together, this blueprint suggests that the cosmos isn't some static, finished thing. It's a story, and it's still being written. And yeah, while our conscious mind might just be the passenger, we, our whole being, we're the pen in the hand of the universe. So maybe the real question isn't, are we in control? Maybe it's, will we choose to participate? So if reality really is a story, what part are you going to play?